Arlington Transportation Partners is Arlington County's business-to-business transportation consulting organization, assisting employers with complementary resources and services to improve transportation amenities and commuter benefits and help employers gain a competitive edge in today's dynamic work environment. Before we proceed to the webinar and a great discussion, a few housekeeping items. All attendees are going to be placed on mute. Feel free to have the video on if you choose to. If you're having a bad hair day or just not feeling up to it today, that's fine. You can block the video. But you know, at ATP, we love seeing happy faces. So I encourage you to have the video on. And then we're also going to have the webinar is being recorded. So we will be sending the recorded version of the webinar to all the attendees. So feel free to share it with your coworkers who are unable to attend today. And lastly, the final thing is that we will be having time for questions towards the end. But throughout the webinar, if there's a question that you would, you want to just address that, just feel free to put in the chat box. And we are monitoring the chat box, so we will make sure that we answer those questions towards the end of the webinar. And just in case, if we run out of time and we do not get to your question during the webinar, we will make sure that we follow up by email and we answer your question. Next slide. So our discussion today, we have a wonderful afternoon with some great discussion planned for us. Our panelists represent nonprofits from 3 different sectors, which is education, we have environment and health. So we've tried to cover all the 3 major sectors. And our panelists today will be sharing with us insights on how and why they have relocated and reduced their expenses to revise the commuter benefits program to help with recruitment, employee retention. So we'll be having a wonderful discussion, with all 3 panelists sharing how they did it, what benefits they are seeing, and what in the future that they anticipate, how will they continue, implementing and monitoring these programs. So yeah, that's our discussion for today. Next slide. And then at this point, without any further delay, I would like to introduce ATP Employer Services Program Director, Marie Cox, who will be moderating today's session with our panelists. And I'll hand it over to Marie.
Great, thank you, Pinky. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion for today's event, Lower Costs and Better Commutes. This panel discussion, as Pinky mentioned, is going to feature 3 different nonprofit leaders whose roles focus on human resources, operations, facilities, and strategic initiatives, looking at how they're viewing a return to the workplace and shifting their programs to meet the needs of employees and today's world of work. So they'll be sharing their experiences, challenges, successes, and lessons learned to help provide a look at how commuter programs and telework can be part of something larger to help your organization reach its goals and achieve its mission. And so additionally, as I introduce today's panelists, I'd like to take a minute just to remind those of you who are joining us live that this session will include the opportunity for questions, as Pinky mentioned, immediately following the panel, as well as at the end following Pinky's presentation of Arlington Transportation Partner Services. So feel free to post questions in the chat throughout this discussion or at the end when we call for them. And additionally, this panel is going to be best viewed in speaker mode. So if you're not a Zoom pro, if you're currently in gallery view, which you can check by just going to the top right-hand corner of your screen, you can change that over to speaker view if you're currently in gallery view. And I've also made it so that everybody should be able to pin multiple presenters if you have that capability as well. And so finally, also, please remain on mute unless you're a panelist or are asked to unmute for any reason. And so then with that, at this time, panelists, you can go ahead and ensure that your microphones are unmuted. And it looks like everybody's already on video. And so I'll start by introducing our wonderful speakers who are here with us today. So first, we have Iveta Bakalova. She serves as the HR lead at NatureServe, and NatureServe is a nonprofit located in National Landing that leverages science and data to guide biodiversity conservation and stewardship. And next, we have Alan Randall, and Alan is the Human Resources Manager with the Association for Professionals in Infection Control and Epidemiology, also known by its shorter name of APIC. And APIC is an association based in National Landing whose members include physicians, nurses, and other health-related professionals advancing the science and practice of infection control and prevention. And last but certainly not least, Carol Mitchell is the Senior Manager of Program Support Services with Common App. And Common App is a membership-based nonprofit located in Clarendon that helps to lower barriers to college access and connects applicants with colleges and universities. And so I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. That way we can all discuss openly. And just to kind of start things off, since you guys can all do a much better job of introducing yourselves than I can, I'd love to hear a little bit about each of you and your roles and responsibilities at your respective organizations. And so we can start with Carol and then wrap around to Alan.
Hello, everyone. So I am Carol Mitchell, as noted. Common App has made major transitions this year in that we have moved to a virtual first environment. So while we have 22,000 square feet in Clarendon, which I still oversee, we have moved our staff to work wherever they want. And I do have a few people that go in the office, but we are working to reduce the commuters online and on Metro. And so I've been working with ATP for 8 years now, which is crazy, or it'll be 8 years this fall. And have benefited greatly from panels like this and from chatting with the folks at ATP, especially Pinky.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ed.
Great. Thank you so much, Carol, and thank you, ATP, for the wonderful introduction to kick off our discussion. My name is Iveta, and as Marie mentioned, I'm the Human Resources Lead at NatureServe. I've been with the organization for about 4.5 years, and I manage the employee life cycle from recruiting to onboarding to benefits to offboarding. We have used ATP services since I've been here, worked closely with Marie and Pinky every year, and really value ATP's expertise in helping our staff be able to find the best commuter benefits for them. Just a little bit about NatureServe. NatureServe is like nature's tech firm is what we'd like to say, and we're the global leader in the use of data, science, and technology to conserve biodiversity and create informed biodiversity decisions. As you all know, we are fighting an ongoing extinction crisis, and so we use big data to protect endangered species, and the information that we collect with the expertise of NatureServe and our NatureServe network, which is compiled of thousands of scientists, is relied upon heavily by the public and private sector to effectively conserve the diversity of life. And just to do a quick plug, you can see the background behind me. That's the Heller's blazing star, and it is a species that is imperiled. We have a product called Explorer Pro. I'm just putting that in the chat so you can see how it all works together, how we track the species, how we've created this system to rank the species, and what that means in terms of states and the government being able to use that data to protect species like the Heller's blazing star. Alan, over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much to Arlington Transportation Partners for having me. My name is Alan Randall. I'm the Human Resources Manager at APIC, the Association for Infection Preventionists and Epidemiology. And I'm sorry, APIC. And so we are a membership-based organization. We have about 15,000 members across the United States and around as we ever expand. We have over 300 chapters around the United States for all made up of members who are interested in infection control and prevention. As the pandemic has taken bigger magnifying glass to showing infection prevention. Our staff has expanded, our role, our mission has expanded, and we continue to grow our staff and the role that we play here. We do have 2 subsidiaries within our organization. We have APIC Consulting and then also Civic, which is a certification board for our credential. And so in partnership with those organizations and us, we continue to have our staff commute and have different incentives to not commute to help reduce the transportation needs within the Arlington area. And so we're excited to be here. We're excited to continue to be a part of the Arlington community, and we're excited. And thank you so much for having me at the panel today.
Great. Well, Arlington's excited to have APIC as well, and all the others here. And so with that too, we've started to hear a little bit about some of the different commuter programs and telework and where you guys might sort of be at in terms of a return to office scenario. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more of that about that from each of you. We know that everyone's at various stages in their return to the workplace and what that means for them. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about how your organization is approaching a return to the office and where you're at currently in that regard. And so again, we can start with Carol and then wrap around to Alan.
So as I mentioned, we made the decision in September prior to September to go to a virtual first environment. So our 117 plus employees are allowed to work anywhere in the United States or the territories. We actually have an employee who moved home to the Virgin Islands, and he shows us on his background, which is real every day. It's crazy. But we did that with the intent of people to make life choices of where they wanted to be and what they wanted their home life to look like. A lot of people have moved out of the area. We still have a good core that is in the Nova, DC area. And we do still have a few people who wanted to go into the office. So while we're virtual first, we maintain the 22,000 square feet in Clarendon. We have the best office. Pinky can tell you that. It's gorgeous. I have one person who goes in about 4 days a week. You have to be vaccinated to go into the office. That's a requirement. You have to fill out a health screening each day and pass that health screening each day in order to go into the office. Besides the one, I have a handful that go in once or twice a week. The most we've had, we celebrated a couple of weeks ago. We had 19 of us, and I was one of those who drove into the office for that day. It was like a party. It was packed. We didn't know what to do. It really wasn't, because we have 22,000 square feet. But we have found that by making the decision this is not going to change when COVID goes away, if it ever goes away. We are going to remain virtual first. And we have looked at we've given staff a lot of different benefits that if we have time, we can go into in order to do that. But we've gotten people off of the road, and it's made for a greater quality of life. I live in Richmond, so I don't have to commute anymore. So it's wonderful.
Thanks, Carol. And then similar to Carol's organization, we've adopted a lot of similar policies during the pandemic. So we all know where we were March 2020 when we all received the news, and how we thought it was going to be maybe a few days or a few weeks, and grabbed our computers and went home. And then it turned out to be now, 2+ years later. And in that sense, one of the good things is NatureServe did have a strong telework and remote work policy before the start of the pandemic, which helped us a lot in easing that transition, because we did have a lot of our staff take advantage of that and work remotely during the week. And so that helped ease the transition, because the staff already had offices they could work from at home. They were already used to that kind of a work arrangement. And so it was really only a few staff that were regularly coming into the office that we had to transition. So it wasn't a huge change for us. One of the things right before the pandemic, the prior year, is we actually moved and decreased our footprint of office space. And we moved from Ballston, where we had an entire floor, as Pinky remembers, where she met us several times there. and then moved down to a much smaller space. And that was in Crystal City, as Marie mentioned. And one of the things is we've listened to our employees. It's so important to temperature check and take a pulse for where your employees are. Everyone, of course, is work focused, but you have to care for your employees and understand that they have personal things going on, that they have families to take care of. The pandemic has really put everyone's life in a tailspin. And so by serving our staff regularly, we've been able to get a temperature check of where they stand and what they prefer. And one of the things I do prefer, as Carol mentioned, is this hybrid remote work environment. And in the pandemic, we've recruited a lot of staff remotely. So we have staff in about 14, 15 states at the moment and growing as we continue to recruit. So what we're seeing is the jobs can be done anywhere that we have, and that our staff do have a preference in the hybrid work model. And we've never fully closed our office. So we do have certain staff members who do just prefer to, get away from the home and work in an office environment. So we've kept our office open, but we are planning to move again and downsize, because we're finding that we actually don't need the space that we moved into at the moment. So we're looking at other options in Crystal City to accommodate the new number of staff that are planning to come into the office. So listening, I would say, is a common theme and thread throughout when deciding what you're going to do for your staff.
So here at APIC, we've had a very similar journey to NatureServe, and similar to Common App, but a little different. In March of 2020, when the pandemic was originally announced, it was 2 weeks to slow the spread, and we originally sent our staff home on mandatory telework. Prior to the pandemic, our staff had a 2-day-a-week telework policy. And so it was a brand new experiment and a brand new opportunity for our staff to kind of show what they could do. In September of 2020, we reopened our office on a limited basis. And then we did quickly kind of shut it back down for Omicron, and really we wanted to make sure our staff felt safe in their place. And so we are slowly reopening our office on a limited basis now, as Omicron kind of slows down. The pandemic is still here, and we fully still want our staff to be safe. Our staff, majority of our staff are still on 5-day-a-week telework, while they continue to be safe from the pandemic, working at home. One thing that you mentioned, kind of a hot spot of activity at the office. We were 12 at the office a couple of weeks ago, and so it was a hot spot of activity. We do have staff who continually go into the office, who choose to go in, and we want to make sure that they have that opportunity, whether it's having one spouse at home or having a child at home, to kind of have that safe place to work and to get their work done in a safe and effective manner. One thing that we've done to kind of pivot and provide a benefit for our staff is we previously had a transportation benefit, which was for WMATA and for parking. And what we did at the summer of 2020, when the pandemic first was announced, we pivoted, and we've now turned this into kind of a COVID subsidy to allow staff to set up their home offices and to kind of subsidize setting up their home offices. So once a month, we disperse that transit subsidy to staff through payroll, and it allows for them to get whatever supplies they need, whether they be mice, like a mouse or a keyboard, or pens, pencils, whatever it is, a new desk, even if they want. That way they can work safe and effectively at home and have all the tools and resources they need without us having to ship them something every time they need it. Veta talked about onboarding staff and recruiting staff. We've done that. We've brought on a number of staff. About a third of our organization has remotely onboarded since the start of the pandemic. And it's been an experience for us to pivot and learn how to remotely onboard and how to effectively include these staff members in our organization. Every single month, we have virtual networking events, cultural events, to allow staff to kind of feel together and to allow staff to get the organization and kind of that feel of the organization. So we really are creating a virtual world for our staff as we continue to telework in this pandemic.
Fantastic. And so, Alan, you may have already kind of touched on this next question. But you might be able to find some things to add to it. But if you had to paint a picture or tell a story of how your benefits and your programs for employees have evolved over the past couple of years, what did that look like before the pandemic? And then what does it look like now? And we can again start with Carol and end with Alan.
So similar to Alan, before the pandemic, everyone had a transportation subsidy. We gave everybody $125, whether that was for parking or whether that was for walking, because we were happy you were walking. So we were going to give you that subsidy, or if you were taking Metro. We didn't pivot. We didn't take away that stipend, and we provided supplies while we were out with COVID until the fall. When we decided to go virtual first, we switched to everyone who comes to Common App gets a $500 office setup stipend. You can use it for whatever you want. You may not need a new office, but if you need something, you can buy it. And then we took that $125 a month that we were given for commuter stipend and turned it into $100 a month supply stipend that you can, there again, use for whatever you want. So if you want to buy a house, you can save up your $100 and buy a house. But that way we weren't buying batteries for everybody who needed it. What we found, like Alan and Yvetta, our folks were used to working at home. So when we went home on March 13th, it was no big deal. We found it was no big deal. Everyone is able to work at home. What we found, though, was the hour or the 2-hour commute that people had coming into the office each way was taken away. Some filled it up with work, which is not exactly what we wanted. But the life balance, the life work balance changed tremendously. And as Yvetta said, we are so invested in our employees and how our employees feel and how comfortable they are that we said from the beginning, health and family first. You take care of your health, you take care of your family, get your work done. But if you have to get it done in the middle of the night, we don't care. You get it done whenever it works for you. Now that all the kids are back in school, it's a lot different for those who had kids. But I think the biggest changes were really just adjusting to it's okay to be, it's okay to work at home. I will say this, and I won't expand, but I'm happy to answer offline. We changed the way we do meetings when we have people at home. Totally, that's our biggest change, I think, is the way we operate meetings. We used to have meetings in person and one person was on a call. And now we've totally revamped it so that we're all in the same room, meaning we're all on the same laptop, just like this. But if anybody wants any questions about that, I'm happy to answer later.
And just as Carol mentioned, we definitely ensured that it was family and health first for our staff as well. Before the pandemic, we also offered a $50 transit subsidy to all of our staff for WMATA. So whether that was bus or Metro, that was a monthly basis, and it was just added directly to their card. We also, as I mentioned, had a flex work, telework policy set up in place. And we have a gym, a bike room, as well as a shower in our building, which helps staff if they wanted to bike to the office, they can lock up their bike in the bike room and then take a shower in the gym. Or if they wanted to use the gym after work or before work, do that. And that was all within the building. And so that has been a tremendous benefit when staff were coming into the office and their transit. We also were able to provide an at-home setup and ergonomic arrangements in order to ensure that they could productively work from home. And with the pandemic, we had to, as Carol mentioned, rethink and make sure that our staff were not burned out working at home. We have a lot of passionate and dedicated staff who, as alluded to, filled up their transit time with more work time and then some. And even though that did boost our productivity rate as an organization, we could tell that staff were exhausted because it was work and then balancing home life and other engagements. And so we try to set in place buffers or as an organization in order to help with that. One thing we created is no meetings on Fridays. So on Fridays, we have stressed, unless, of course, there's always emergency meetings or last minute vendor meetings that have to take place, and those are inevitable. But for the most part, everyone respects everyone else's Fridays as a time to do some deep work, because we found ourselves going into Zoom meetings back to back during the week and not really having that time for ourselves to do deep work and to work on the tasks we need to do, because we're just from meeting to meeting. Another thing we've developed during the pandemic is the adopting the 4.5 work day for work week, for the 4.5 day work week. And what that means is we are a 35-hour week organization. And if you get those 35 hours done from eight hours Monday through Thursday, and then you have the remaining time on Friday, you can essentially have a half day on Friday and take the rest of the day to be with your family, go for a hike, just take time for yourself, a mental wellness day. And so that's really tremendously helped our staff be able to block out their calendars on Outlook and say, this is my 4.5 day work week, and I'm blocking off my half day Friday. And then there's been a few other programs, but I also wanted to highlight here the last program we adopted, which is our floating holiday policy. So we wanted to recognize that not everyone celebrates the federal holidays. And we found that we have a diverse workforce, and that floating holiday policy helps our staff be able to float the holidays and observe holidays that they want to observe, but also helps them rearrange the time off that they take so that they take it when they need it. So those kinds of programs have really helped our staff be more balanced, in addition to providing other wellness and engagement activities, just try to buffer that burnout and the stress that comes with the day-to-day work.
Yeah, very similar to Carol and Avetta. Our organization has made a number of changes in regards to our benefits offerings to our employees. In March of 2020, we had a very different benefits program from what we have today. We have revamped our leave situation. Similar to NatureServe, we implemented what's called personal leave for our staff, where we give additional days of leave in recognition for the employees' contributions to the organization, specifically our annual conference every year. It's a big push for our staff. On top of that, we've also implemented we've modified our holiday schedule. We took off a couple of the federal holidays and added a couple of personal days of leave so staff can take the days that mean the most to them. And we have had staff who have used this for many different things. And so it really allows for staff to have that flexibility within the organization. In 2020, we also took a very generous stance for our employees, where we did not charge them any sick leave. And to ensure that they had the time and well-being and welfare to go take care of their family members in a time of unprecedented risk and unprecedented action of what was going on. We really wanted to make sure that our staff knew the resources that were available to them. We re-emphasized our EAP programs. We brought on a second EAP program, and we put on wellness seminars for our staff throughout the year to ensure that we brought in mental health professionals, we brought in wellness professionals to help reinforce those. And then we did, our CEO also did close the organization for a couple of days to kind of have a day of unplugging for staff to kind of understand that your time is valuable and we want you to spend that time with your family. Similar to NatureServe, we do have a no meeting Friday. In February of 2021, we implemented that kind of starting as a pilot, but it's been successful, and we really encourage staff to take that no meeting Friday, get that project work done, and if they want. We do have a summer flex program where staff can flex those hours on and work 9 hours on Monday through Friday, and then take that half day on Friday. It really allows for our staff members to refocus and take the time they need to spend with their friends, family members, and do the things that they want to do. One last thing that we've really changed is how we interact for some of our staff members. Two of our subsidiaries I mentioned earlier, Civic and APIC Consulting, they did choose to be remote organizations. And so we have brought on two of those remote organizations and been allowed these staff members to kind of work where they are. And it's been a learning experience for us as an organization, but at the same time, it's been really grateful for some of these employees as they come on to have that flexibility within an organization.
Marie,
Yes,
can I add one thing real quick?
of course.
So in addition to all the benefits that Iveta and Alan have spoken about, because we've done a lot of that too. One of the things that I talked to Pinky about that we did that has really helped. We found people weren't taking their vacation and they're sick. So we implemented back in April of 2020, a mental health day a month. It's not charged to your vacation. It's not charged to your floating holidays. And we've kept that and we plan to keep it. There are no plans to take it away. And that's a day that you take for yourself to do whatever you want. For some of us, to be honest with you, it means we work, but nobody thinks we're working, so we get a lot of work done. Or we take the day off and you go with your kids, or you go to the beach, or you do nothing. And we have found, and you have to use it in the month. If you don't use it, you lose it. But we have found people take their mental health days, but they haven't been taking their vacation. And so now we're in this part where we're encouraging people to finish their vacation before the end of the fiscal year in June. But if you don't, we won't let you lose it this year. We'll pay you out at half of it, so that we have that option, so that going into next fiscal year, we kind of start like we were pre-pandemic, and people aren't having, 2.5 years worth of vacation that they've got saved up.
I was hoping that you would bring that up, Carol. Great. Well, good. Yeah, it sounds like everybody's got some great programs and benefits that they're offering. And it's great to hear too, like how that's shifted and the mindset around work and around, your time spent with family, and how people spend their time in general has just sort of shifted with all of everything that's gone on the past 2 years. Now we are getting really close to the end of time, but one last question too that I wanted to ask before we wrap up the panel portion is if you had to say, the biggest benefit or advantage that you've seen so far from telework or some of the other programs that you've implemented, specifically around those that either support people's commutes or not having to commute at all, what would you say that the biggest benefit or advantage has been for your organization?
I'll hit that one first. I think it's meeting people where they are. We've really been able to accommodate the flexibility of different unique needs of each employee. We've been able to really kind of accommodate what each employee needs. And it really has been a really great opportunity for us to engage in good discussion early on, and kind of seeing what each employee needs. Some employees do want the flexibility and some employees don't. Some employees do want to come to the office. And so it's really been a really great conversation with each employee to see what their needs are and how they can best be successful in their role within our organization. We want everyone to be successful and we want everyone to feel supported. And so some people do like to come to the office and some people don't like to come to the office. And having those unique discussions with each person has really been a great change of how we look at what we do. As we move forward, we're still finalizing what our long-term telework plan is. We've talked about telework a lot in this conversation today, but there's a lot of other benefits that we have that we've modified. We've modified our health, we've modified our dental, our vision, we've modified our 401k to better benefit our employees. But at the same point, it's also, we look down the road to what support we can provide to each employee, whether it's shipping them something or whether it's implementing an employee rewards program or employee recognition program, which we've done this year, to making sure that each employee feels supported in their role and moving forward as they support the organization.
Hey, Alan, and to add to what Alan said, I'd echo a lot of the points that he brought up. I'd divide them into 3 parts. One is happier employees. Really knowing that employees are listened to and cared for and feel connected to the organization and connected to the benefits that you offer, and also know about the benefits. I think education is a key part of re-educating the employees about what the benefits package is for them. And that's why we work closely with Pinky and Maria on making sure that we do a brown bag with them almost every year to go over those benefits is really key to ensuring that they are happy whether or not they decide to commute into the office. And two is retaining our current staff. So as a result of being happier, they're wanting to stay longer with us, and we're having high retention rates and lower turnover. And then third, I would say is it's really appealing to new applicants to know about the great benefits that you offer. So with regards to recruitment, right now we were actually right before the webinar started talking about how to ensure that we recruit quality candidates and how do we recruit talent in this really tight job market. And so making sure that we are able to present our benefits and have applicants be excited about them and choose us over another company is critical in getting the top talent.
I'd give you a challenge that we have. And our challenge is may sound strange, but our biggest challenge is getting our staff to understand we are virtual first. They will never have to come into the office. They will never have to come into a meeting in person. We have staff who, even though we've told them a million times, you will never have to come in, who believe somewhere down the road, we're going to say, we're going to all get together. And we may say we're going to get together, but we will never say we're going to all get together. And everything we do will always have a virtual component. And that goes for our board meetings. It goes for our own staff meetings. It goes for team meetings. Virtual is the first, and then on-site is the second, so that we're trying to get our staff to understand you will never have to do this unless you want to, even if you live across the street.
Fantastic. Great. Yeah, and so with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the panel portion. These things never last as long as I feel like we need them to. So I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Pinky. I think, the biggest things that came up today are really around, flexibility and around creating a program that works for everybody, and listening to your employees. And I think that those are really great takeaways from this conversation that other organizations can really listen into and lean into when they're looking at their own policies and programs moving forward. So we did have a couple of questions too that came up through the chat. So I'll pass it back over to Pinky, and then if we have a couple of minutes for questions right towards the end, then we'll go ahead and answer those questions at that time. And so with that, I'll go ahead and share the screen again so that Pinky can continue on with the presentation.
Well, that was a good discussion. We almost lost track of time. We could go on. It was, I felt even though I work with all three of the panelists, and I meet with you guys virtually often, but I feel like I still learned so much more about, what you guys are doing, with all the employee engagement and retention. It's always nice to hear from everybody. And I hope all our attendees and the people who will be listening to this recording also benefit from, all the wonderful discussions that we've had and all your information that you've shared about each one of you has shared today. So with that, I hope that everybody is inspired to revisit and reevaluate their commuter benefits program. And at ATP, we are always here to help you, because as an employer located in Arlington, you are available. There are a bunch of free resources that are available to you, which are listed on our screen here. So, starting with maybe a free assessment, you can schedule a brief 15-20 minutes call where an ATP rep like me would be able to, just learn a little bit more about your benefits and, talk to you about offering customized solutions and resources. I know we spoke a lot about telework today and how it's going to be continuing, for the future, like with hybrid workplace and flexible workplace policies. So if you are looking to enhance or implement any policy, whether it's telework, flexible workspace policy, feel free to reach out to us. We have guides for each one of them. We also have guides for commuter benefits, if you're looking at implementing or enhancing that, or, maybe as you're bringing employees back to the work side, of course, I know this is all on a hybrid basis, and, we can talk about, share information about how you could form a van pool, at your organization, and, even share information about all the local and state incentives that might be available to reduce the cost of commuting. And then, of course, with the weather changing, active commuting is on top of everybody's mind. So we can also assist you with, capital bike share corporate program assistance. So starting from, helping you decide, which program would work best, how do you promote and market that program, whether it's through a virtual event or on-site event, if you are open to having, us come to your work site. So we can do virtual, on-site, customized events. And then, of course, it's always, good to survey your employees, because I know everybody's like listening to your employees on top of everybody's mind. That's what we heard in today's discussion. So survey is another way to really bring that home, like really understanding what your employees want before you make any change. It's always nice to hear what are their concerns, what are their challenges, and then depending on that, make changes to your policy. So we have a whole list of free customized services that are available to you. And I hope that you take me up on it and give me the opportunity to work with you in implementing and enhancing those benefits. Next slide. And just as a thank you for attending and choosing to spend your afternoon with us today, we are offering all our attendees a free 30-day membership to webinar attendees, Capital Bike Share membership. So Capital Bike Share is, as you can see in the image, those wonderful red shiny bikes, which are all over Arlington. They are just perfect for, running a short errand, short commute. So, as a thank you, you get to try it for 30 days for free. If you are interested, feel free to send us an email at solutions@transpartners.com. We'll have the email put in the chat box, so that way you can reach out to us, and I'd be happy to share the code with you. The good thing about Capital Bike Share is they also have introduced now electric bikes. So, if you want to go a little bit further, you can have an easy ride. And the first 30 minutes of every ride is free. So it's nice. Like if you're not commuting to work, say you are at work, you want to go grab a slice of pizza. I'll give you a fun fact. There is a Capital Bike Share station located almost, if not every, I will not say every, almost outside every pizza shop in Arlington. So if you can think of any pizza place to grab lunch, there will be a Capital Bike Share station around it. That's just a fun fact. And then, right now with spring weather coming up, biking is, more on everybody's mind. So in case you're looking for some reasons to start biking, well, there are some reasons. Biking is, of course, less expensive than gas right now, which has always been less expensive than gas, but particularly right now with, gas prices being so high, biking is a much more cheaper and affordable way to get around. We all know the benefits. It benefits, the physical and mental health. And then lastly, Arlington definitely makes it very easy to bike around here with all the great infrastructure we have with our dedicated bike lanes and the easy access to trails. And then most buildings in Arlington also have, like we heard from Iveta, her building, and Carol's building, the Common App also has, you have secure bike parking, shower facility. So all these things collectively together make biking more desirable to anyone. And then if you're looking for a further incentive to bike, then we have some important dates to remember. Like you have Earth Day coming up, April 22nd, and the entire month of May is Bike Month. So there are celebrations all throughout in May. beginning with, everybody has their own, every jurisdiction has a little celebration, but the biggest one is on May 20th, Bike to Work Day. You can sign up online and you'll automatically be entered to win a prize, and you're definitely guaranteed a free t-shirt, when you attend at any of the pit stops. Arlington has about 5 to 7 pit stops located everywhere. So it's a really nice way to celebrate biking, with the larger community. Next slide. And then I am going to open it up for questions now. So if you have questions for our panel or for ATP at this point, this time, we open it up to questions. And then, we'll just take it from there.
So there was a question that came up in the chat, and it is about meetings, Carol. And so I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and provide a little bit of an overview of how you changed meetings. And I can connect you both for further discussion too after this if needed.
Yeah, so quickly, what we did we had 9 folks who were remote prior to the pandemic. And so we would have a meeting, we'd all be sitting in the room, we'd have the giant screen on, everybody'd be looking at the screen, and the person at home would be sitting there on the phone, because they couldn't see much. Even though we had a camera in the room, looking at this table of people is very difficult. We had a board meeting in June of 2020 where 5 of our board members met in person in Philadelphia, and they were doing what they were used to. And the 20 others who were at home, it didn't do us any good. We couldn't see anything. All we saw was, them eating, and we couldn't hear. It was awful. It was just awful. So at their first break, we said, guys, everybody get on your laptop, just like you're in a meeting at home. And we've continued that. So our meetings now, if there is one person who is not in the room with you, so even if 20 people are together in our boardroom in the office, which hasn't happened, if one person is calling in, every single person is on their own laptop, talking into their own headphones or laptop, pressing mute when they're not talking. And we have found that that's the most inclusive way to have our meetings. So no longer is that person who's not in the room feeling like they're not in the room. That's helped us tremendously. It's frustrating for the 4 people who may be together, but it's outweighed by the inclusiveness of the person at home. Hope that helps.
Great, fantastic. And so if anybody does need to hop off, please feel free to do so. But there was one other question as well, just around something that we talked about earlier, right before this session, is just how your organization's recruitment methods have been affected or changed with the implementation of new commuter benefits programs. So if anybody from the panel wants to speak on that.
Yeah, I'll hop in on that one. One thing we've done is we've rebranded our recruitment methods, and we've rebranded our recruitment technology, the way that we do it. We really bring up our benefits early on in the recruitment process. During our initial phone screens, we really emphasize our benefits package with our staff, with our candidates. And then we also on our website have focused our benefits as a part of where candidates can click to apply. We've put a one-pager of our benefits, as well as on our applicant tracking system. We've put a one-pager as well as our full benefits package. We want to make sure, we like to think we have a very generous benefits package, which I think we do, but we want to make sure that that is front and central. We've talked about benefits being such an essential part of Arlington Transportation Partners partnership with us, which it is. Making sure that we provide the high quality benefits to our staff. And it's one of those things that we want to make sure these candidates know early on in the recruitment process, because it is an essential part of how we interact with them.
And then last question that we'll ask today and then wrap up, how do you help your employees achieve a good work-life balance in this hybrid work model?
That's a great question. I can take that one. That's been the challenge. And as I alluded to, the last point that was asked about what's important to our staff is ensuring that there is that work-life balance. So instead of expecting staff to set those boundaries for themselves, as Carol alluded to, that can be hard when you have very passionate, hardworking employees who want to work through their mental health days or their days off. Ensuring as an organization that you provide the infrastructure in place to buffer that through programs. So whether that's our 4.5-day work week, our floating holidays, whether that is any types of benefits that are customized to them, all of that is very important to ensure that they maintain a healthy work-life balance.
Fantastic. Pinky, I'll pass it back over to you for any final words.
The next slide. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for spending your afternoon with us. We hope that everybody had at least a couple of takeaways. I wouldn't say one, but I would say at least like a couple of 2 takeaways at least from today's wonderful discussion. And, we are always here if you choose to implement and enhance your commuter benefits program. Feel free to reach out to us. We are always happy and eager to assist you, and enjoy the remainder of the day.